For 30 years, Carmen Rodriguez had one job: to look at broken people and see something worth saving. She had guided thousands of men and women off the streets and back into life. But nothing prepared her for the night she watched a security camera feed of a teenage boy destroying the one place she had built her entire life around. And nothing prepared her for who his father turned out to be. What she would say in Judge Judy's courtroom that day didn't just explain a crime, it revealed 30 years of quiet, invisible work that had shaped hundreds of lives no one ever noticed. Before we get into what Carmen Rodriguez told this courtroom, tell me in the comments where you're watching from today. And make sure you hit that subscribe button, because this story is about to show you what real strength looks like when nobody's watching. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. Carmen Rodriguez was 72 years old, and she had run the Riverside Community Shelter in Providence for 3 decades. She didn't take the job for recognition. She took it because in 1996, she had been the one to find a young, starving refugee sleeping outside a subway grate, shivering through a New England winter with nothing but a torn jacket and a language he barely spoke. "I still remember his eyes," she would later say. "Some people look at you like they've given up. He didn't. He looked terrified, but he was still fighting. I knew right then he just needed someone to believe he was worth the effort." That young man was Marcus Chen. Carmen brought him inside, got him a bed, taught him English every evening after her shift ended, and connected him with the construction crew that gave him his first job in America. She never asked for anything in return. She simply did what she had always done. She gave dignity to people the world had stopped looking at. For years afterward, Marcus would visit her every single month, long after he no longer needed the shelter's help. He funded renovations, he personally designed a new wing, he never let a holiday pass without dropping off supplies himself. Carmen watched him build a real estate empire from nothing, and she never once told his story publicly, because he'd asked her not to, and because, in her words, that was never mine to share. Then, on a Friday night this past October, Carmen received a call at 11 p.m. Her night manager was crying on the phone. "Miss Rodriguez, someone's live streaming themselves destroying the shelter. They're pouring bleach on the food. They're smashing the computers." Carmen drove there in her pajamas. By the time she arrived, 4 teenagers were gone, but the damage remained. Spray paint across the walls she had personally chosen the colors for. Torn winter coats scattered across the floor. The smell of bleach thick in a kitchen that had fed 200 people that same afternoon. I sat down on the floor of that kitchen, and I cried harder than I had in years. Not because of the money, because someone had looked at this place, at everything it represented, and decided it was a joke. Weeks later, the bailiff called the case in Judge Judy's courtroom. Tyler Chen, 16 years old, sat at the defendant's table, scrolling through his phone, waiting to hear what fine his father would pay. Carmen sat quietly in the gallery, watching him with an unreadable expression. She had no idea yet that the boy sitting at that table was the son of the man she had pulled off a subway grate decades earlier, until the surname registered and something in her chest went still. When Judge Judy called her to the stand, Carmen's testimony didn't focus on anger. It focused on what the shelter actually was. "Your Honor, people think a shelter is just 4 walls and some beds. It isn't. Every person who walks through that door has usually been told over and over that they don't matter. Our job is to prove that wrong, one conversation at a time. The coats this young man destroyed weren't just fabric. They were promised warmth to someone sleeping outside tonight. The computers he smashed were someone's only way to apply for a job and end their homelessness for good." Before Carmen reveals what happened when she recognized Marcus Chen sitting quietly in the back row, and before Judge Judy asks her the one question that brings the entire courtroom to complete silence, hit that subscribe button now, because what Carmen says next explains exactly why some people never forget the person who once saved their life. "Your Honor," Carmen continued, her voice steady despite the emotion behind it, "I want to tell you something the boy's father never told him. In 1996, I found a homeless man near that same shelter. He was starving, terrified, alone in a country where he barely spoke the language. I helped him. I taught him English every night for months. I watched him get his first job, and I watched him become one of the most generous men I have ever known. A man who rebuilt that shelter with his own hands and his own money, year after year, without ever asking for credit. Judge Judy looked towards the back of the courtroom, where Marcus Chen sat quietly with his head bowed. "Miss Rodriguez, do you recognize the defendant's father in this courtroom today?" Carmen turned, and when her eyes met Marcus's, both of them were fighting back tears. "Yes, Your Honor, that's Marcus. That's the boy I found on the street decades ago, and I never in my life imagined I would be sitting here explaining to his son why the place I built with him matters." Gasps rippled through the gallery. Tyler, who had been slouched in his chair for the entire hearing, sat frozen, staring at Carmen as if seeing her for the first time. "Wait, what is she talking about? Dad, what is she talking about?" Judge Judy turned to the back row. "Mr. Chen, would you like to address the court?" Marcus rose slowly, his hands trembling slightly as he buttoned his jacket. He walked to the front of the courtroom and stood a few feet from his son, unable to fully meet his eyes at first. "Tyler," he said, his voice barely steady, "everything Miss Rodriguez just said is true. I didn't come to this country as a businessman. I came with $200 and no plan. Within 2 months, I was homeless. I slept outside for almost 3 years. I stood in soup kitchen lines. I was so ashamed of that time of my life that I buried it. I told you I built everything through hard work, and that part was true, but I never told you where I started. I never told you that the woman sitting on that stand is the reason I'm alive today. I never told you because I didn't want you to see me as weak. I see now that hiding it didn't make you stronger. It just made you cruel to people who remind you of who I really was." Tyler stared at his father, his mouth open, no sound coming out. The courtroom held its breath. "Miss Rodriguez, what would you want Tyler to understand more than anything else?" Carmen looked directly at the boy. "That the people your father built that shelter for aren't statistics. They're someone's father, someone's son, someone who is 1 bad month away from starting over completely. Your dad understood that better than almost anyone alive because he lived it. I just wish he'd told you sooner, because then maybe you would have known what you were really destroying." The courtroom was silent. Tyler's composure, already cracking from his father's confession moments earlier, broke completely as he looked at the woman his father had spoken of with such reverence for years, a woman he was only now meeting for the first time in the middle of the worst moment of his life. Judge Judy set down her folder and addressed the courtroom directly. "Tyler Chen, I find you responsible for the damages caused to the Riverside Community Shelter on the night in question. You are ordered to pay $18,000 in restitution, covering the destroyed food supplies, winter coats, and computer equipment, paid through your own labor, not your father's accounts. This is non-negotiable." Tyler nodded, wiping his face. "Yes, Your Honor, I understand." Carmen raised her hand slightly. "Your Honor, if I may make one additional request." Judge Judy nodded. "Go ahead, Miss Rodriguez." "I'd like Tyler to volunteer under my direct supervision once his restitution is underway, not just complete hours and leave. I want him to sit with our residents. I want him to hear their stories the way I heard Marcus's story decades ago. The money repairs the shelter, but sitting with someone and truly listening, that's what actually repairs a person." Judge Judy studied Carmen for a moment, then nodded. "Restitution stands as ordered, and Miss Rodriguez's request for supervised service is granted in addition to, not instead of, the financial judgment. Some debts are paid in dollars, others are paid in time and attention. Mr. Chen owes both." 6 months later, Tyler Chen sat in the same kitchen he had once vandalized, his restitution nearly paid off, listening to a woman named Denise describe losing her apartment after a medical bankruptcy. Carmen watched from across the room, the same way she'd once watched a frightened young refugee learn his first words of English at that same table. People ask me if I regret giving 30 years of my life to this place. I tell them the same thing every time. I didn't give 30 years to a building. I gave 30 years to proving that everyone is worth a second chance. Marcus proved that, and now watching his son learn the same lesson, I believe it more than ever. Court is adjourned. Do you think Judge Judy was right to order both restitution and supervised service, or should one have been enough? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because next week another case is going to remind you why the truth always finds its way to the surface.